Chapter 1, Part 15. It is to look at the sky as if for the first time and realize you are standing on a spinning sphere wrapped in atmosphere, circling a burning star, in a galaxy flung through space like a song. And somehow in all of this you are here, breathing, thinking, loving, you, a collection of stardust, animated by consciousness, capable of sorrow and joy and tenderness. What else could this be but a miracle? But awe, unlike astonishment, is not loud. It does not demand spectacle. Awe waits in stillness. It lives in the way sunlight falls on the floor, in the quiet resilience of the body healing a cut, in the laugh of a child, in the way water shapes itself to whatever holds it. Awe lives in the mundane made sacred through attention. And at the root of awe is love. Not a sentimental kind, but the deep cosmic kind. The love that made the stars and sustains the soil. The love that didn't just bring us into being, but continues to whisper, "Behold, this is all for you. This is all of you." To live in awe is to reclaim your birthright as a participant in this great unfolding. It is to choose wonder over numbness, presence over distraction, reverence over routine. It is to let your heart be moved, not just once in a while, but daily. As a practice, as a posture. Wonder is not naive, it is brave. It is an act of resistance in a world that tries to flatten mystery. Awe reminds us that nothing is truly small and nothing truly separate. It threads the invisible line between science and spirit, between the known and the unknowable. And in that recognition, gratitude is born. Not the kind we say, but the kind we become. So pause, look around, let yourself be cracked open by the sheer unlikeliness of being here at all. Let awe be your compass, not to explain, but to experience. And in every moment of amazement, every gasp of reverent stillness, feel what's really speaking underneath. This beauty, this life, this breath, is love, made visible. And it is speaking to you. Will you listen with wonder? The future unfolds a love-driven evolution, from competition to cooperation, returning to the universe's original harmony, shifting societal paradigms from conflict to collaborative flourishing, mirroring the universe's fundamental cooperative impulse. For centuries, we have praised competition as the engine of progress. Survival of the fittest, winner takes all. The myth of scarcity turned into a cultural creed. We have built empires, markets, and identities on the belief that to thrive is to outdo, to outlast, to overcome the other. But beneath this narrative, something deeper stirs. A quieter truth waits to be remembered. The universe itself is built on cooperation. Atoms do not compete to form molecules, they join. Cells do not battle to create tissue, they collaborate. Ecosystems do not thrive through domination, but through balance, symbiosis, and mutual aid. Even the stars in their dying gift the elements that become new worlds, new life, new wonder. The cosmos is not a battlefield, it is a dance. And so we find ourselves at a threshold. A moment in history when the old story of conflict has run its course, and a new one, or perhaps the original one, calls us forward. From separation to belonging, from scarcity to sufficiency, from domination to shared thriving. Cooperation is not weakness, it is the wisdom of life. It says, "I do not need to win at your expense. Your well-being is bound to mine." It is the principle encoded in the roots of forests, the neural nets of brains, the networks of hearts. When we shift from competition to cooperation, we realign with the rhythm of the cosmos. We move from isolation to intimacy, from survival to flourishing. Innovation becomes collective, not cutthroat. Justice becomes restorative, not punitive. Leadership becomes stewardship, not control. And love becomes the blueprint for every system, every structure, every story we choose to tell. To cooperate is to remember that we are not separate beings on parallel tracks, but threads in a single tapestry. It is to ask not, "How do I get ahead?" but "How do we rise together?" And in this rising, the universe smiles, because we are no longer imitating its violence, but mirroring its essence, connection, harmony, wholeness. The shift has already begun, in communities growing food together, in technologies built for sharing, in leaders who listen, in children who reach for each other without question. We are remembering what we forgot, that we were never meant to compete for love. We were meant to become it together. Healing the planet, a covenant of reciprocal love. Recognizing the earth as a living, loving entity, and our role in its care as an act of reciprocal love. What if the earth is not a backdrop to our lives, but a being alive, aware, and profoundly loving? What if every tree is not just timber, but a breathing prayer? What if every stream is not just water but memory moving through time? What if the planet is not our resource, but our relative, our mother, our mirror, our home? For too long, we have treated the earth as object, not presence. We have mined her bones, scorched her skin, silenced her rivers, and called it progress. We forgot that she too feels, that she too remembers, and that she, in her quiet and enduring grace, still loves us. To heal the planet is not simply to clean or conserve. It is to remember our belonging. It is to shift from dominion to devotion, from taking to tending. It is to recognize that care for the earth is not an obligation, but a relationship, a sacred act of reciprocal love. Because the earth has always given. She gives air to breathe, water to drink, food to sustain, beauty to soften our edges. She holds us in gravity, in rhythm, in silence. And what has she asked in return? Only that we listen, that we live in alignment with the same harmony she offers without condition. When we love the earth, when we plant trees not just for shade, but for generations, when we restore soil, rewild rivers, reduce harm, not out of guilt, but out of reverence, we heal more than ecosystems, we heal ourselves. We reclaim a part of our soul that was never meant to live apart from land, from sky, from the great green pulse beneath our feet. This is not about ideology. It is about intimacy. It is remembering that to touch the earth gently is to be touched gently in return, that to kneel in the garden is to pray without words, that to protect what is vulnerable is to awaken the ancient song of stewardship in our blood. Healing the planet is not a heroic act. It is a homecoming. It is the child remembering the mother. It is the breath remembering the forest. It is humanity remembering that we are not gods above creation. We are creation, called to love itself back into balance. So let us step lightly, speak softly, give freely. Let us live as if the earth is alive, because she is. And let every act of healing be a message whispered into her soil. I see you. I love you. I remember. The next chapter, co-writing the universe's love story. If the universe is a love story, then our collective future is about consciously participating in its most profound, compassionate, and unifying chapters. We are co-authors. If the universe is a love story, then we are not merely reading it, we are writing it. Every sunrise, every breath, every act of kindness is ink on the page. And though we may not have authored the beginning, we are now holding the pen. The stars may have set the stage, but it is human hands, hearts, and choices that are shaping what comes next. This is the great turning, a moment in cosmic time where consciousness has become aware of itself, and with that awareness comes a sacred responsibility. We are not spectators in a cold machine. We are participants in a living story, one born of connection, expansion, and the longing to return to wholeness. Look back, and you'll see the early chapters of fire and form, of life crawling out of oceans, of tribes becoming nations, of souls awakening through suffering and song. These were chapters of becoming, of searching, of forgetting and remembering again. And now the next chapter calls. It is not about power, conquest, or more. It is about deepening, about weaving together what has been divided, about remembering that the universe is not held together by force, but by relationship, by love in all its forms, compassion, cooperation, reverence, humility, and awe. To consciously participate in this next chapter is to live as if every thought matters, because it does. It is to speak as if your words shape the future, because they do. It is to build not only with intelligence, but with empathy. Not only with innovation, but with care. This chapter asks us to move from ego to ecology, from isolation to interconnection, from survival to shared flourishing. It asks us to see every life, not just human, as a line in the poem, every action as a sentence in the unfolding narrative of love realizing its self-form. And here is the quiet miracle. The universe wants us to co-write. It longs to express through us, to evolve through our choices, to awaken through our willingness to choose compassion over convenience, presence over distraction, unity over fear. We are not just in the story, we are the story. And now, as we face global challenges and cosmic possibilities, the pen is in our hands. So let us write a chapter worthy of the stars. Let us write with tenderness, with courage, with vision. Let us make this a love story where all are seen, all are valued, all are held. The next chapter is being written in real time. And the question is not what will happen, but rather, who will we choose to become? Conclusion. The unending embrace. We have journeyed from the cosmic origins to the intimate whispers of the human heart, exploring the radical idea that love is not merely an emotion we experience, but that the very force that orchestrates all existence. We've seen how the universe, in its intricate dance of creation and connection, continually reveals itself as a grand, unfolding love story in motion. This perspective changes everything. It transforms our understanding of pain, purpose, and possibility. It invites us to stop merely feeling love and to begin being love, to recognize its pervasive presence in every atom, every breath, every interaction. The invitation stands. Open your heart not just to another person, but to the entire cosmos. Feel the vibration of its boundless affection, and in doing so, become a conscious participant in the most magnificent love story ever told, the one that is the universe itself. The embrace has always been here. It's time to feel it and to become it. The apex of being, incarnations of ascent, an examination of those who transcended the earthly veil. Introduction: the gravity of spirit. For millennia, humanity has looked skyward, not just at the stars, but with a yearning for something beyond the tangible. We tell stories of gods and goddesses descending, but equally compelling are the narratives of mortals who, through profound spiritual realization, appear to have shed the very bonds of earth, transcending the limitations of mind and physical body to ascend into a realm of pure spirit. These are not merely tales of miracles, they are profound allegories, echoing a deep-seated human aspiration for liberation, union with the divine, and the ultimate mastery over material existence. This essay is a journey into those extraordinary lives, those moments of ultimate transformation where the earthly coil was exchanged for an ethereal embrace, where the individual consciousness merged with the boundless. We will explore figures from diverse traditions, not to prove historical fact, but to ponder the profound spiritual truths their stories embody. What does it mean to ascend? Is it a physical translation, a metaphor for ultimate enlightenment, or perhaps both? Join us as we stand at the precipice of human potential, gazing into the narratives of those who dared to touch the heavens with their very essence. The path of transfiguration, understanding ascension, beyond the horizon of flesh. The universal yearning, humanity's unshakable thirst for the beyond, exploring the cross-cultural desire for transcendence. Across time and language, across deserts and forests, cathedrals and caves, one truth remains: we are creatures who yearn. There is, within the human heart, a flame that refuses to be extinguished, a longing not satisfied by comfort or possession or even happiness. It is a desire for something more, not more in quantity, but in quality. Not more stuff, but more being, a hunger for transcendence, a thirst for the eternal. This yearning is universal. The mystic in the Himalayas, the monk in a silent cloister, the dancer in a West African village, the poet walking under city lights, the scientist peering through a telescope, all are reaching in their own way for what lies beyond the veil, each in search of that which cannot be named but is somehow known. We call it God, Spirit, Nirvana, the beloved, the void, the infinite, the light. We build temples and theories around it. We weep for it. We make art from its absence. We devote lifetimes to tasting just a drop. This shared longing is not weakness. It is our birthmark, the echo of the divine within us, calling itself home. What unites the human spirit across culture is not only our rituals or myths, but the direction of our gaze. We all look up. We all look inward. We all look beyond. Whether through prayer, meditation, pilgrimage, psychedelics, dance, solitude, service, or silence, we seek a truth that dissolves boundaries, that untethers us from the limits of the ego and reveals our deeper belonging. Why? Because somewhere inside we remember. We remember being one with all things. We remember the stillness before sound. We remember the love before form. And so we reach, not to escape life, but to expand within it. Not to deny the world death, but to embrace it more fully, as sacred, as unified, as alive with meaning. This is the universal yearning, the call that whispers in every language, in every soul: there is more. There is depth, there is connection. There is light beyond the visible. And to honor that call is not to be broken or lost. It is to be fully human. It is to join the great caravan of seekers, not chasing answers, but journeying ever deeper into the beautiful, bewildering mystery of what it means to be both finite and infinite, both dust and divinity, both wound and wonder. Defining ascension, a spectrum of becoming. physical vanishing, light-body manifestation, ultimate nirvana, spiritual merger. It's often a spectrum of understanding. Ascension is one of those words, luminous, mysterious, often whispered more than spoken, carrying with it centuries of myth, mysticism, and metaphor. It appears in scriptures, in visions, in stories of sages and saints, Christ rising into the clouds, bodhisattvas dissolving into rainbow light, prophets vanishing in a flash of glory. The desert hermit who walked into the mountain and was never seen again. But what is ascension, really? For some, it is literal, the physical vanishing of the body, transfigured into light, lifted beyond the laws of matter, the moment where gravity surrenders and heaven receives, a singular climactic release from density, final and spectacular. For others, it is more subtle, more internal, the activation of the light body, the transformation of flesh into energy, vibration, awareness. Not a disappearance, but a shift, a change in frequency. One remains in the world but is no longer of it. The eyes are still, but they see differently. The being radiates presence, calm, clarity, like a bell that rings truth just by existing. Then there is the path of nirvana, the great extinguishing, not into absence, but into pure being. No more craving, no more self, no more cycle. A return to the undivided stillness from which all things arise. No clouds, no choir, no drama, just the end of grasping and the fullness of release. Others speak of spiritual merger, the soul dissolving back into the source, the drop returning to the ocean, not as loss but as completion, not floating upward but folding inward, until there is no longer a line between self and God, between seeker and sought, a sacred reunion, silent and total. And perhaps ascension is not any one of these things. Perhaps it is all of them, and more. Perhaps it is not a moment but a movement, a lifelong, soul-deep turning toward the real, a journey from contraction to expansion, from fear to love, from forgetting to remembering. Ascension, then, becomes a spectrum of understanding, a language that adapts to the heart that speaks it. For one, it's a departure. For another, a deepening. For some, a cosmic event. For others, a quiet unfolding. And maybe the truest ascension isn't about leaving Earth, but about inhabiting it fully, with such grace, such clarity, such love, that every breath becomes a prayer, every step a revelation, every encounter a mirror of the divine. So whether we vanish in light or simply walk more lightly, whether we rise above or sink inward to the still point, ascension is not escape, it is arrival. Arrival into a state where love leads, where truth shines without shadow, and where we finally remember that we were never separate, only sleeping, only dreaming, and now at last beginning to awaken. Mind over matter, spirit over mind, the sovereignty of consciousness. How these narratives speak to the ultimate power of consciousness. There is a quiet revolution encoded in the phrase mind over matter. It suggests something bold, that thought is not just a reaction to reality, but a force that shapes it. That matter, no matter how solid, is not sovereign. That will, intention, focus, the mysterious architecture of the mind, can bend the material world, shift outcomes, heal bodies, shape futures. It is the seed of every miracle, the whisper behind every breakthrough. Reality is not fixed. You are not powerless. We have seen it in moments of superhuman resilience, in spontaneous healings, in athletes who defy physical limits, in monks who slow their heartbeat, in individuals who imagine new lives and walk into them. The mind, when honed and focused, can turn the improbable into the actual. It is the alchemist, the architect, the bridge between the invisible and the seen. But mind over matter is only half the ascent. Beyond mind, beyond thought, beyond belief, beyond language, dwells spirit. Where the mind is the tool of direction, the spirit is the source of being. Where the mind chooses, the spirit knows. It is not concerned with strategy or structure. It does not plan or persuade. It simply is, radiant, aware, whole. So we arrive at a deeper truth, spirit over mind. The mind, powerful as it is, can be bound by fear, illusion, memory, ego. It can mistake noise for wisdom, survival for truth. The spirit, however, is unbound. It sees through the mind's maze and reminds us, you are not just the thinker of thoughts, you are the witness, the stillness, the source from which thought itself arises. Spirit over mind is not domination. It is realignment. It is the moment when the intellect bows to intuition, when the inner chatter falls silent before the presence of the eternal. It is what mystics mean when they speak of surrender or awakening. The mind is not discarded, it is illuminated. it becomes a clear window through which spirit can see and act. And in this alignment, spirit guiding mind, mind shaping matter, we glimpse the ultimate power of consciousness, not as abstraction, but as creation itself. The universe, awake within itself, moving through you. So the journey becomes this: from matter to mind, from mind to spirit, from effort to essence, from shaping the world to being the truth it was always becoming. Not mind against matter, not spirit against mind, but all in harmony, a trinity of intention, awareness, and form, woven together by the thread of consciousness, forever unfolding itself through you. The divine blueprint, ascension as birthright or benediction. Is ascension an inherent possibility for all, or a unique grace bestowed upon a few? Is ascension the destiny of all, or the rare gift of a chosen few? Is it a universal unfolding written in the stars, or a secret staircase revealed only to those who stumble upon grace? These questions have echoed through temples and hearts for millennia. Some traditions speak of the elect, the saints, the avatars, those rare beings who pierce the veil, rise above the wheel, and merge with the absolute. Their stories are luminous and humbling. Christ transfigured on the Mount, Buddha dissolving into nirvana, mystics vanishing into light, prophets rising in flame. It's tempting to believe that such transcendence is reserved for the spiritually elite, those kissed by divine favor or forged by rare suffering. And yet deep within, a quieter truth persists, like an ember that never quite dies. What if ascension is not exclusive, but essential to what we are? What if it is not a gift given to us, but a truth waiting within us? The divine blueprint may not be a map to follow, but a memory to awaken. Like the spiral in a sunflower, like the geometry of galaxies, the design is already there, etched into our being, not just in our spirit, but in our cells. A pattern of return, of remembering, of rising. Ascension, then, is not about becoming something other, it is about becoming more fully what we are. Some awaken early, others slowly, but the possibility lives in all. Every soul carries the code. Every life is an invitation. But ascension is not escape. It is not the bypassing of humanity or the denial of form. It is the integration of all things, the light and the shadow, the divine and the earthly, until nothing is excluded and all is transfigured. It is not climbing away from the world, but illuminating it from within. So perhaps grace is not the lightning bolt from above. Perhaps grace is the spark we fan with devotion, the whisper we follow in the dark, the hunger for more that isn't greed, but longing to return. In this view, ascension is both birthright and blessing. It is encoded in us and offered to us. It is something we are and something we become, and the great paradox is that the more we rise, the more we kneel in humility, the more we merge with light, the more we become love incarnate, not leaving the world, but lifting it with us. Ascension is not reserved, it is revealed, in time, in stillness, in surrender. It is the divine blueprint awakening within all things, asking only this: will you remember who you truly are? The subtle body and the cosmic ladder chakras and energy systems, the subtle anatomy of awakening. How various traditions describe the energetic architecture that facilitates higher states. Beneath the skin, beneath the sinews and nerves, there lies a subtler body, one that pulses not with blood, but with light, frequency, consciousness. Across cultures, languages, and lineages, mystics and sages have spoken of this hidden system, the energetic architecture that shapes our thoughts, emotions, vitality, and spirit. In the yogic tradition, they are known as chakras, whirling wheels of energy aligned along the spine, each a gateway between the material and the divine. They are not physical organs, but centers of vibration, of inner intelligence. When open and balanced, they become the pathways through which consciousness flows, awakening dormant potential, illuminating awareness, and guiding the soul toward its source. The root chakra anchors us to the earth, survival, safety, grounding. The sacral chakra invites us into emotion, sensuality, and creative flow. The solar plexus burns with selfhood, confidence, will. The heart chakra opens us to love that transcends condition. The throat expresses truth, vibration, the sacred sound of being. The third eye sees beyond form, intuition, inner knowing. The crown chakra dissolves the self into the sky, union, transcendence, divine remembrance. But the chakra system is not the only map. In Chinese medicine, the flow of qi moves through meridians, rivers of life force that weave through the body like ley lines of the soul. Health, balance, clarity, all depend on this flow remaining unblocked, harmonious, free. In Kabbalah, the tree of life maps not only creation but the inner ascent of the soul through layers of awareness toward the divine. In Sufism, the journey moves through lat-if, subtle organs of perception that open like petals in the heart and chest as the seeker deepens into love and annihilation. Each system speaks a similar language, though with different symbols. That we are not merely physical, that our suffering, our joy, our potential are shaped by what flows or fails to flow beneath the surface. That higher states, ecstasy, bliss, unity, peace, are not manufactured but unveiled once the energy body is attuned, cleared, awakened. These energy systems are scaffolding for the soul, not cages but pathways. And just as rivers carve landscapes, energy shapes consciousness. A blocked chakra can obscure perception, an awakened one can change a life. Enlightenment, then, is not a lightning strike but a refinement, a gradual opening of each center until the entire being vibrates in harmony with love, with truth, with source. This is why breathwork, mantra, movement, silence, and sacred sound are revered across traditions. They are tools not just for calming the mind, but for tuning the instrument of the body. Each breath clears the channel. Each mantra opens a gate. Each gesture, offered in reverence, becomes an alignment with the current of the divine. To work with the energy body is to remember that the path to higher consciousness is already built within you. You are not missing anything. You are a temple of light waiting to be lit. And as the energy rises, as the centers awaken, you discover you are not climbing toward the divine. You are becoming the instrument through which it sings. Kundalini and spiritual awakening, the serpent of light within. The dormant power within, awakened to bridge the earthly and the divine. Deep within the root of our being, coiled like a serpent in stillness, there rests a power older than memory. It sleeps quietly, not out of neglect, but out of wisdom. It waits for readiness, for reverence, for the call to rise. This is Kundalini, the sacred life force said to dwell at the base of the spine, a feminine current of creative energy, pure consciousness in latent form. In yogic traditions, it is Shakti herself, the divine mother, slumbering until the soul is ripe for its next becoming. When awakened, Kundalini is not merely energy, it is transformation. It is the fire that refines, the wind that clears, the light that reveals. It moves upward, spiraling through the chakras, clearing blockages, illuminating truth, breaking through illusion. It is the great bridge builder, linking earth and sky, the finite and the infinite, the body and the soul. Its rising is not always gentle. It is often described as a storm of ecstasy, a flood of light, a fire that purifies everything false. Emotional patterns shatter, old identities dissolve. The mind, long the master, is humbled into servant. The heart opens not just to feeling, but to knowing, to the wordless truth of unity. This is not myth, this is awakening, but it is not a rise of energy, it is the return of the sacred within. It is the moment the seeker becomes the found, the moment the body is no longer a cage but a temple. The spine becomes a staff of light, the breath, a sacred wind, the heart, a sun, the mind, clear sky. And with this rising, something ancient is remembered. You are not separate. You are not just human, not just spirit, you are both. A divine spark wrapped in flesh, a cosmic being with feet on the earth. Kundalini is the invitation to embody this truth, not in theory but in living reality. It is not escapism, it is integration. It is not floating into transcendence but anchoring heaven in the body. This sacred force is not for the few. It is not reserved for saints or sages. It is the birthright of all, a gift coded into our being by a universe that longs to know itself through us. Yet it must be honored, guided, nurtured, not forced but received. For it does not respond to egoic ambition. It responds to surrender, to devotion, to readiness, to love. And when it rises, when the serpent uncoils and the soul begins to glow from within, life is no longer just survival or story. It becomes revelation, a dance between the seen and unseen, a flame that burns without consuming. In awakening Kundalini, we do not become something new. We remember what we have always been, a bridge between earth and sky, a body of light wrapped in matter, a living prayer, rising. Dimensions of existence, heaven as consciousness, not place. Understanding the heavens or higher realms not just as physical places, but as states of consciousness or vibrational frequencies. When we speak of heaven or higher realms, we often imagine vast, radiant landscapes beyond the stars. celestial cities, gardens of light, realms above this world where the pure and holy reside. We look up because something in us remembers that the divine has always been associated with height, with ascent, with sky, with transcendence. But what if these realms are not places in space, but states of being? What if higher does not mean elsewhere, but deeper within? Many spiritual traditions, from mystic Christianity to Sufism, from Vedanta to Theosophy, speak of dimensions of existence not as separate locations, but as layers of vibration, frequencies of awareness through which consciousness moves. Not unlike octaves in music or colors in light, these dimensions are all part of the same spectrum, vibrating at different intensities of truth, love, and unity. The so-called lower realms are marked by fear, fragmentation, and density. They feel heavy, urgent, isolated. The higher realms are spacious, luminous, clear, states in which unity is not a concept, but a lived reality. Time bends, separation dissolves, and love is no longer earned, it simply is. Heaven in this view is not a reward after death. It is a frequency we can begin to access through the refinement of our awareness. It is available here, in the quiet moment of compassion, in the stillness of deep meditation, in the surrender of ego, in the overflowing heart. We ascend not by climbing, but by remembering. We shift not by leaving the body, but by inhabiting it more fully, more consciously, more lovingly. This is why sages and mystics often seemed in this world but not of it. They were here, walking, breathing, speaking, but attuned to a higher frequency. They lived from a dimension that was not above us, but within reach, within them, within all of us. And yet these realms are not flat or final. Consciousness is ever expanding, ever unfolding into more subtle, more radiant dimensions of itself. One can move from the astral to the causal, from the mental to the formless, from the luminous to the pure silence of Source. Each realm is not a destination, but a deepening, each step closer to the heart of the mystery. To walk this path is not to escape this world, but to transfigure it, to bring the higher down into the lower. To anchor the invisible into the visible, to become a bridge, a human being who lives with their feet on earth and their soul in heaven. So when we ask, where is heaven? Where are the higher realms? The answer may come not from the stars, but from within. Heaven is a state of consciousness, a frequency of love, a place not to go, but to become. The role of pure consciousness, liberation through the still light of being, how the dissolution of ego and the realization of ultimate awareness enable liberation. There comes a moment, quiet, unsought, when the mind exhausts its grasping, the heart surrenders its defenses, and the self, long believed to be solid and separate, begins to dissolve, like mist in morning sun. In that moment, what remains is not void, but vastness, not absence, but presence. What remains is pure consciousness. It does not think, it does not judge, it does not strive. It is pure consciousness is the silent witness behind all experience. It is the screen on which the play of life unfolds, the canvas untouched by the paint, the sky untouched by the storm. While the ego constructs identities, chases desires, fears loss, and clings to stories, pure consciousness simply watches. It is the ever-present awareness in which all things appear and disappear. To realize this truth is to awaken, not in theory, but in being. To see that the I we so passionately protect is not the doer, but the dreamer. And the dreamer, too, is a dream. When the ego dissolves, not through force, but through gentle seeing, what's left is not confusion, but clarity beyond thought. The old self falls away, and with it, fear, comparison, ambition born of lack. In its place arises a stillness that holds everything, a freedom so natural we wonder how we ever missed it. This is liberation, not the acquisition of spiritual knowledge, but the loss of illusion. Not rising above life, but resting within it, as life itself. All true spiritual traditions point to this same essence. In Buddhism, nirvana, the extinguishing of the flame of craving. In Advaita Vedanta, the self, Atman, realized as Brahman, pure awareness, knowing itself. In Christian mysticism, the cloud of unknowing, where the soul meets God beyond image or concept. In Sufism, fana, the annihilation of the self in the beloved. Though the words differ, the current is the same. To awaken is to return to what has always been here. And what has always been here is awareness, not shaped by past, not bound by future, not disturbed by form. Pure consciousness is not passive. It is profoundly alive. It moves as love. It knows without needing to understand. It heals without effort. It embraces without preference. And so, the path of liberation is not a path of acquisition, but of remembrance. It is not about becoming more, but realizing we are already enough, because the essence of what we are has no lack, no edge, no beginning or end. The dissolution of ego is not a loss, but a return to the centerless center, to the light behind the eyes, to the still point in the turning world, to pure consciousness, where all questions dissolve into the one answer that has no words: I am. Echoes from the Empyrean, Avatars of Ascent. The Christed Light, Jesus of Nazareth, the narrative, the resurrection, and the ascension, 40 days later, witnessed by disciples. Spiritual significance, victory over death, the promise of eternal life, the divinization of humanity, the ultimate union of human and divine. The lesson for us, the transformative power of unconditional love, forgiveness, and faith in the face of adversity. The potential for resurrection within our own lives. The narrative, it was not the end, it was the opening of a door. 3 days in the stillness of the tomb, and then a pulse, a breath, a light breaking through stone and silence. He rose, not in vengeance, not with thunder or sword, but with wounds that glowed, with peace on his lips and love in his eyes. For 40 days he walked among the living, a bridge between the seen and unseen. He spoke not of retribution, but of reunion. He broke bread with trembling hands, walked through walls of fear, and lifted hearts still heavy with doubt. Then, on a mountaintop in full view of those who loved him, he ascended. He ascended, not into distance, but into dimension, not as departure, but as completion. He did not vanish, he expanded, becoming presence itself. The Christ did not escape the world, he filled it. Spiritual significance. His was not merely a personal triumph, it was a cosmic unveiling. Victory over death, not as spectacle, but as quiet revolution. A declaration that death is not the end, but a door, and love is the key that opens it. He showed that eternal life is not something to be earned, but something to be remembered. It is not far, it is now. It is the divine breath that never left, and more. In him we see not a distant God to worship, but the revelation of what humanity can become. Divinization, not blasphemy, but blueprint. That flesh can shine, that love can take form. That the human is not a barrier to the divine, but its vessel. The veil was torn, he walked through it, and we were invited to follow. The lesson for us, he did not come to be admired, he came to awaken, to show us that even in suffering, even in betrayal, even in the garden of shadows, there is a deeper light. And when we choose to love without condition, to forgive without demand, to trust without seeing, then the tomb cracks open in us too. This is the resurrection the world waits for. Not just one man risen, but a humanity reborn. When we choose compassion over contempt, when we stand in truth even when it trembles, when we bless what others curse, we walk the same path. Because the Christed Light is not behind us, it is within us. It rises every time we lay down our pride, every time we pain with grace, every time we say forgive them and mean it. He lives where love leads. He rises where peace is chosen. And he ascends whenever we let go of fear and finally remember we are not only made by God, we are made of God. The rainbow body, Guru Padmasambhav, Tibetan Buddhism. The narrative, his departure from Tibet, dissolving into a body of light, Jalu, leaving no physical trace. Spiritual significance, the ultimate fruit of Dzogchen practice, realization of the primordial purity of consciousness, the dissolution of material form into its luminous essence. The lesson for us, the profound power of meditative realization, the illusion of solidity, the potential for ultimate liberation through wisdom and compassion. The narrative. They say he came from a lotus, born not of flesh but of vision. A being not bound by time, yet arriving just when the world needed a lantern lit from within. Guru Padmasambhava, known as the Lotus-born, walked through Tibet not as a conqueror, but as a mirror, reflecting to every soul the light buried in its own depths. He taught not just words but space, not just rituals but Dzogchen, the great perfection, the path of remembering what has never been lost. And when his work was done, he did not die, he did not vanish into ash or decay, he dissolved, his body becoming light, his form transparent, his being everywhere. No bones, no tomb, only color. Only radiance, a silence so profound it glowed. This is the rainbow body, Jalu, not a myth but a threshold crossed. Spiritual significance. This was not escape, this was completion, the final fruit of a life lived in luminous alignment. The Dzogchen masters taught, you are already pure. you are already whole. But you must recognize it. And Padmasambhava showed what happens when you do. He revealed the primordial purity of consciousness, not a belief but a seeing, a knowing so deep that it dissolves all illusion, including the illusion of flesh as final. The body is not destroyed, it is transfigured, matter returning to light, light returning to mind, mind resting in the infinite openness of space. The world says we are solid. He showed we are not. We are frequencies clothed in skin. We are rainbows waiting to remember themselves. The lesson for us. This is not a relic of an ancient path. This is a mirror held to our own potential. When the mind becomes still, not through force, but through clarity, when compassion burns away separation, when wisdom replaces grasping, something begins to soften. What once seemed fixed becomes fluid. What once seemed me becomes mystery. This is the power of meditative realization, not escape from the world, but seeing through it. The illusion of solidity begins to fade, and with it, the fear that has governed us for lifetimes. Padmasambhava did not leave behind a monument. He left behind instructions. Sit, see. Remember, live with compassion fierce as fire. Let wisdom become your breath. And one day, the light within you will no longer need to hide behind form. We may not dissolve into rainbows just yet, but every act of love, every moment of pure awareness, every refusal to believe in fear is a step toward the sky. The path is not upward, it is inward, and from there, all things rise. The immortalized, Enoch and Elijah, Judaism, Christianity. The narratives, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him, Genesis. Elijah taken to heaven by a chariot of fire, 2 Kings. Spiritual significance. Divine favor, righteousness leading to extraordinary transcendence, a testament to God's power to elevate the faithful. The lesson for us. The importance of devotion and obedience to divine will, the rewards of a life lived in alignment with spiritual principles, the mystery of divine intervention. The narratives. There are stories in Scripture that shimmer, not because they explain, but because they evade explanation. Enoch was not a prophet of fire or thunder. He did not split seas or stand before kings. He walked with God, day by day, step by step, until there was no longer any separation between the two. Then he was not, for God took him. No tomb, no mourning, only the silence of completion and the absence that felt like presence. And Elijah burned bright. He called down fire from heaven. He defied tyrants. He did not die in stillness, but in glory, lifted in a whirlwind, escorted by a chariot of flame, drawn by horses not of this world. One ascended like dew evaporating at dawn, the other like lightning cracking the sky. Two departures, one truth. There are lives so aligned with God that the world can no longer hold them. Spiritual significance. These are not tales of reward, but revelations of possibility. In Enoch, we see the quiet holiness of devotion, the soul that walks steadily with God until there is no distance left to that walk. In Elijah, we see the holy fire of righteousness, the courage to stand when all others bow, the boldness to burn for truth in an age of idolatry. And both are taken, not in death, but in elevation. This is the mystery of divine favor, that when one's life becomes fully transparent to the divine, there is no longer a need for separation, for veil, for form. God does not just welcome the faithful, He lifts them. These narratives are more than miracles. They are testaments that righteousness is not forgotten and that transcendence is not confined to myth. The lesson for us. We may not be taken in flame or vanish into light, but we are invited to live in such obedience, such reverence, such unwavering intimacy with the divine that our lives become a quiet ascent. To walk with God is not a poetic metaphor. It is a daily choice, a path paved in prayer and humility and obedience. Not the blind kind, but the clear-sighted surrender of one who knows God's will is wiser than my wants. Elijah teaches us to speak truth in the face of power. Enoch teaches us to stay close to the presence in the ordinary, and both remind us that the laws of heaven are not bound to the laws of physics. For there are moments, rare and radiant, when heaven reaches down and the soul already halfway there is simply lifted the rest of the way. So walk. And if the path grows silent, walk anyway. If the fire rises, stand steady, because the one who walks with God never truly walks alone, and may one day find that they too are taken, not in body perhaps, but in spirit, into the very heart of light. The Vanishing Sage, Lao Tzu, Taoism. The narrative. After writing the Tao Te Ching at the request of the gatekeeper, he rode off on an ox, disappearing into the west, never to be seen again. Spiritual significance. The ultimate embodiment of Wu Wei, effortless action and alignment with the Tao, transcending the need for physical manifestation upon complete realization. The lesson for us, the wisdom of non-contention, simplicity, detachment from worldly concerns, and finding liberation through harmony with the natural order. The narrative, there is no shrine, no tomb, no relic to hold, only the whisper of hooves fading into the dust of the west, and a scroll of paradox left behind like a stone dropped in a still pond, rippling through centuries. They say Lao Tzu arrived at the edge of civilization, the final gate before wilderness, having lived, taught, and served in silence. The keeper of the pass, sensing the weight of the moment, asked the old master to leave behind something. And so he wrote 81 verses, each one a doorway, not a doctrine but a mirror. And when the last word was inked, he mounted his ox, humble, deliberate, and rode into the horizon. He did not die. He disappeared. As if the Tao, having poured itself into form for a moment, gathered itself back into the wind. Spiritual significance. Lao Tzu did not perform miracles. He became one. He was not a sage of thunder or law, but of water and shadow, of what bends without breaking, what yields and yet remains. He was the embodiment of Wu Wei. Effortless action, action in perfect rhythm with the Tao, where nothing is forced and yet all is done. No resistance, no ambition, no noise, just presence, just flow. And when realization flowered fully, when his form had nothing left to express, he transcended even visibility. Not as escape, but as completion. The Tao does not cling, and neither did he. He vanished, not to be forgotten, but to be everywhere. The lesson for us. The ox he rode was not just a beast, it was a teaching. Go slowly, move with the earth, carry only what you must. Lao Tzu teaches not by decree, but by departure. His message is not to strive, but to return to your natural rhythm, to the silence beneath the mind, to the path that moves without maps. Non-contention. Let the world chase. You be still. Simplicity. The fewer your wants, the clearer your sight. Detachment. Not from love, but from illusion. From the idea that you must grasp what was never yours. To live in harmony with the natural order is to stop shouting into the river and begin listening to the current. Liberation is not loud. It is subtle. It is the kind of freedom that feels like disappearing, not from life, but into its deepest truth. So take the ox path, walk it slow. Speak only when the words feel lighter than silence. And when the time comes, may you too vanish, not in fear, but in fulfillment. Not into oblivion, but into the way. The Rishi's flight, Agastya, Hinduism. The narrative, a revered Vedic sage, many accounts describe him either physically ascending to the heavens or merging with stars' constellations. Spiritual significance. The power of tapas, austere spiritual practice, mastery over elements, the union of the individual soul with the cosmic being. The lesson, for us, the profound results of intense spiritual discipline, the interconnectedness of microcosm and macrocosm, and the deep roots of mystical power. The narrative. They say he drank an ocean, that he moved mountains with a word, that he crossed the vastness of the Vindhyas not by force but by presence. Agastya, ancient rishi, knower of the hymns, carrier of fire, embodiment of divine austerity. Born of a jar, raised on starlight, he was no ordinary sage, but one who carried the Vedas in his marrow and the power of the cosmos in his stillness. And in the end, he did not die. He rose. Some say he ascended bodily into the heavens, others that he merged with the stars, that his soul became light and took its place in the sky's eternal scripture. There is no tomb, only constellations that still bear his name. He is not remembered. He is remembering itself, written in the firmament. Spiritual significance. Agastya is not a tale of magic. He is a testament to tapas, spiritual fire, born of sacred discipline. He did not seek power. He became power by surrendering ego to essence. Through silence, through devotion, through the long burning of desire into offering, he attained mastery, not by commanding nature but by aligning with it. He was said to still the winds, to speak to rivers, to call upon devas not as other but as kin. This is the mark of true realization, the union of the self with the cosmic self. No separation, no striving, just the knowing. Aham Brahmasmi, I am that. Agastya's ascension was not escape, it was integration. The final harmony of the microcosm dissolving into the heartbeat of the whole. the lesson for us. He teaches us that greatness does not arrive with noise or acclaim, but through discipline lived over lifetimes. He reminds us that the inner fire tapas can illuminate the unseen, soften the immovable, and reveal the divine geometry behind all things. Through Agastya, we learn that every breath is part of a vast symphony, and when the breath becomes prayer, and prayer becomes stillness, the soul begins to lift. We are made of the same elements he mastered, the same star breath, the same river blood. The microcosm is the macrocosm, and to know yourself fully is to know the universe intimately. This is not mysticism for mysticism's sake. This is returning to origin, where spirit and matter are no longer at odds, but lovers reunited after a long forgetting. So let your discipline be joyful. Let your silence be radiant, and let your life become a slow ignition of that ancient spark within you. You may not rise as starlight, but you will shine. And one day, when the journey is complete, you too may vanish, not in death, but in dissolution, not away from the world, but into its deepest truth. The Celestial Prophet Zarathustra, Zoroastrianism. The narrative. Accounts of his spiritual journeys to the heavens in visions, and some traditions suggest a non-physical passing or ascension after his mission. Spiritual significance. Direct communion with Ahura Mazda, wise Lord, the receipt of divine revelation, the triumph of light over darkness. The lesson for us. The power of divine inspiration, the importance of discerning good from evil, and the courage to spread truth in the face of opposition. The narrative. There are prophets who speak from earth upward, and there are those whose voices descend from stars. Zarathustra, Zoroaster, was such a one. Born in a world teetering between chaos and cosmos, he walked the fields of fire and shadow not to escape the world, but to heal it from within. He was not crowned by kings. He was not adorned in gold. He was lifted in vision, into the radiant courts of Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord, the source of all truth and light. In that celestial communion he received not commandments but insight, a vision of the cosmos as moral, of creation as a battleground where every soul has a role. And when his earthly mission was fulfilled, some say he ascended, not in body but in essence, vanishing into the light from which he came. No grave, no ending, only the echo of his voice in the wind of history calling humanity upward. Spiritual significance. Zarathustra stands as a beacon between earth and sky, a soul not merely inspired by the divine, but in dialogue with it. He reminds us that heaven is not passive, it speaks, and when the heart is prepared, it listens. His revelation was not thunder and fear, it was clarity, that there is good, there is evil, and the sacred task of each soul is to choose between them. Again and again, with eyes open and will engaged, light must be chosen. That is the great truth, and that choice begins within, not in the heavens.